What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my college football playoff projections heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. We continue with our projections week by week here, as now we're heading into the 6th weekend of the college football season. And again, we've been doing these playoff projections week by week. Things haven't really changed, ever since we kind of, got the new 4 teams out and everything. But, every week by week, it usually seems like we have a different championship pick and everything. But again, this is not an official prediction. This is simply a projection based off of how the teams performed this past weekend and which teams are performing the best so far in the college football season. So we're going to get right into it with my playoff projections. And tomorrow I'll give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into Week 6 as well. So let's get right into it here. Here is the bracket once again for the college football playoff. You see the number 1 versus number 4 seeded matchup will be held in the Sugar Bowl. And then the number 2 versus number 3 seeded matchup will take place in the Rose Bowl. So we're going to start with my number 1 seed here. No change here. I still got Georgia here at number 1. Even though they were not really impressive against Auburn, I'm still going to pick Georgia as the top team in the country. But things could really change. Things could really change as the season goes on. They do got Kentucky this weekend. If they don't really play their best right there, I might make a change here to my number 1 seed. I tell you what, it's kind of hard to predict against this Georgia team when they don't play at their best. But it's really, I think Georgia's going to get better. It kind of goes back to last year where Georgia has those sluggish games in the month of September, and then they start to get better in the middle of October, and then they start to come that dominant team and that dominant defense as well that we like to see throughout the history of Georgia football and under the Kirby Smart era. So Georgia, my number 1 seed here. Let's go to my number 2 seed here in the Rose Bowl. And that team is going to be Michigan. Very impressive performance against Nebraska this past weekend. They finally found their offense. I just talked about their offense in my top 25 video the other day and also my upset alert video. I think Michigan's offense is going to get better. Their defense seems to be really good. So if they get their offense going now for the rest of the year, Michigan's defense, if they also can really, start to be dominant on that side of the football, Michigan very well could beat Georgia. They can also beat other teams in the top 25, like, for example, maybe Ohio State. It's kind of hard to predict in that game so far because Michigan and Ohio State were both struggling in the first few weeks of the season, but now it seems like their offenses are clicking in. So that was the ultimate go that we kind of had for Michigan and Ohio State in the last 2 weeks to get their offenses going. So Michigan here at number 2, no change here. My number 3 seed is going to be Florida State. No change here for Florida State. They had a bye week this past weekend, but they had that win against Clemson on the road, a week ago and everything. So I'm still very impressed with this Florida State team. They still got that win over LSU, which is a top 25 win. But LSU looks like they're starting to kind of fall apart now, a little bit in the college football rankings and everything. They're ranked, but it seems like if they do lose this weekend, that LSU win is not going to be really good for them. So Florida State here at number 3. I've still been very impressed with this team so far, though. They'll be back in action this weekend, though, so at least we'll see Florida State back on the field. So we haven't really seen much from Florida State this past weekend. Of course, they had a bye week, so we'll see them back in action this weekend. And then my number 4 seed, no change here either. It's going to be Texas still. Texas here at number 4. Very impressive win over Kansas, in that Big 12 game. Jalen Daniels went down with an injury for the Jayhawks. I think that's the reason why Texas won this game pretty big. I was just very impressed with the offense and also very impressed with the defense. And Texas looks like a dominant team. They are definitely a number 1 team in the country, but I have to see more from Texas in order to kind of rank them that high. I know they have that win over Alabama. That, Alabama win does help them out. So Texas here at number 4, and again, no changes here to my playoff projections with the 4 teams. Still got Georgia at number 1, Michigan at number 2, Florida State at number 3, who had the bye week, and then had Texas here at number 4. So Georgia, Michigan, and Texas. Georgia had a really close game against Auburn, and then Michigan and Texas blew out both of their opponents. So let's start with my predictions here. If these games were to happen this weekend, we're going to start with the number 1 versus number 4 matchup. Georgia versus Texas. I think based off of what I've saw, from this past weekend, Georgia did not perform their best. They did give up 20 points in this game against Auburn and then also 21 against UAB. Based off of what we've seen in the past couple weeks for the defense just has not been really good and not really consistent. But, I've been very impressed with Texas. They have that win over Alabama, and I think based off of that performance against Kansas, I'm going to go with Texas here to knock off Georgia here in the Sugar Bowl. And again, this is just based off of how the teams performed this past weekend. So I got Texas moving on here to the national championship. Then we got Michigan versus Florida State. I know Florida State had a bye week this weekend, but Michigan, I just think they were very impressive. They finally found their offense. And I'm going to go with Michigan here. I know a lot of fans are going to say that Florida State had a bye week. Why do you pick in Michigan this game? Well, I think Michigan was just very impressive on the offensive side of the football when you look at that Clemson game a couple weeks ago for Florida State. I know that's a big win for them. I think Michigan definitely performed so much better on the offensive side of the football. And again, I just didn't see Florida State perform over the weekend, so that's the reason why Michigan moves on. So Michigan versus Texas here in the national championship. I tell you what, this would be a really good matchup if both of these teams played. I think this would be a really good defensive game. I tell you what, I think Michigan, the way they found their offense this weekend, I think their defense is just a little bit better than Texas, defense. But I tell you what, their offense is so much better, I think, than, Texas and everything. So I'm going to pick Michigan here this weekend as my national champion heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. But I tell you what, things could really change as we get into this weekend. I mean, we saw a lot of upsets happen this past weekend. Georgia, they could be beat by, by Kentucky. You never know. I mean, they're playing that game at home at least, but, Texas could be beat by Oklahoma. Michigan, they got Minnesota on the road this weekend. I forgot what Florida State's playing, but I think it's not going to be a really big challenge for Florida State coming up this weekend. I'll tell you what, these playoff projections are going to change. I mean, we're going to see all these teams get better and everything. We saw Michigan get better this past weekend. We saw Texas get better. Georgia, they still have a few ways to go. I mean, maybe the game against Kentucky will kind of prove to us that Georgia is that top team still in the country. But these are my playoff projections heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these playoff projections. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.